Hi, I'm Paul Gerard, and we're at Oral Wellness Center today, and I'm the director of yoga teacher training. And today's question was, how do I teach a workshop for stress management? So here's the thing: if we're going to look at the subject teaching yoga for stress management, and you hear an awful lot about stress, but a lot of people don't consider this one fact. Stress is part of all of our lives. It's just a natural part. Although chronic stress is not factored into that being a natural part of your life. So, for example, people who are going through a financial crisis or people that are going through something like a war or something else where there's a family member who's really sick or you're really sick, all of these things, they cause a lot of extra stress. So it's not just what you're experiencing, but then the extra chronic stress on top of that. And how many days and years can you take of that before, it starts to do some real damage? On the surface, we know about some of the stress related health problems, and to to just give a small list doesn't really say enough. And but to start with, we have random pain of any kind. A lot of times is stress related. So then heart problems, high blood pressure, insomnia, which insomnia and chronic stress together can create a lot of emotional and mental problems. It really does affect your job performance. So all of those things, how are you going to be able to do any higher thinking if you're stressed out all the time or if you're not getting any sleep? So those are the types of things that we're concerned with. That's why what we're doing is we're using yoga techniques as a toolbox. So you have a lot of different ways to be able to help people. And you often get people who are students who might ask you, can you come down to my workplace? I can set it up for you or whatever. And of course, that is a good idea because that gets the word out that you teach yoga and, um, you have classes somewhere. And the, the fact is, they want to see you in some capacity. And maybe even somebody who never considered practicing yoga at all might jump into a stress management workshop. So there are a lot of different avenues for meeting someone, and it's an interesting thing because a lot of us come to yoga for different reasons. But one of the reasons, amongst those many reasons, is stress. So some people just need stress relief. They might only get stress relief in brief times when they're doing something that's relaxing or when they're doing something like participating in yoga. So, if we're thinking about having a workshop, we're thinking about two different ways of having a workshop and possibly three. So, I give you an example of three different places. One, you're having it in a yoga studio or in a health club that has yoga classes, or two, you're having it in a public place where it's not yogic at all, and three, you're having it in a religious center. So that makes it a lot different. Your approaches are going to be different. And some people will say in a religious center it just won't fly. It depends on the religious center. There are a number of churches and temples that have yoga classes and have meditation classes all along. So it's one of those things where um, that's not really a stretch. It's something that you see quite often. Um, so if we're going to have it just for the general public and it's outside of a studio, then I'd probably go a little bit more generic. And that is on some things, like, for example, we have warm ups in yoga. Definitely stress the warm ups, definitely stress the asanas. If somebody doesn't want to hear asana, then what you do is you change that to stretch, stretching or poses. So it's just a matter of like pranayama, breathing, mantra, affirmations. So what we're doing is we're showing our techniques, but we're not putting any kind of spin on it where anybody can make it into something that's more than what it actually is. So my my purpose in saying this is, if you want to reach the largest number of people, you don't want to create anything where anybody's taking offense. There are some people who you can't avoid offending. So you have to keep that in mind too. Um, the other techniques that we have meditation. So, easiest one, breath awareness meditation. But beyond that, there are loads of different types of meditation. I mentioned mantra already, but like I said, in a more public atmosphere, or if I'm in a church, it might be meditation focusing on breathing. It might be meditation that's focusing on prayer, depending on if I partake in that particular place. I have taught yoga in places where I did not practice that particular religion. Um, in that case, I did stay away from prayers. I just kept it at affirmations. So it's one of those things where I just felt like I didn't want an avenue created where there was some kind of an argument over religion. Um, Nidra, you know, here's the thing. Nidra in and of itself, if people incorporated Nidra into their lifestyle, that would reduce a lot of stress and bring out a lot of inner calm. So when we stop and we think about different techniques, not because this is the last technique that I'm mentioning, but yoga nidra is actually effortless. So it requires you to either practice a sankalpa or a mantra or an affirmation or a prayer at night in bed. It makes it a lot easier the shorter it is. And I think it helps me personally when it's something that's just two syllables or two words, and it's an inhale and an exhale. So it makes it very easy. I've mentioned this before, but I think thank you is a great affirmation. So there are a lot of different affirmations that you could choose, and there are a lot of different mantras and a lot of different prayers. Prayers tend to be longer. There's nothing wrong with any of those approaches. It's just a matter of maintaining your practice and continuing. And what happens for teachers is, as we teach and reach outside of our studios, what we do is we run more into the general public. So we want to make it user friendly as much as we can and avoid any kind of a potential conflict. With that in mind, I wish you well. Namaste.